Keeping a Research Log for the Advanced Legal Research course at Boston College Law School. Answers to the graded exercises in this class will have two parts. Part A will be the answer to the research question posed. It could be in the form of a short memo, or even an email to the attorney who gave you the project, or a letter to the client. Part B will be a research log. Your research log can take any form you want, so long as it captures and conveys sufficient information about your research process that someone reading your research log could tell what you looked for, where and how you looked for it, what you found, and your conclusions about the usefulness of your findings for answering the research question posed. Before I give some tips on how to prepare a usable research log, I'd like to point out some of the advantages of keeping a good research log for all the legal research you perform. A well-structured research log can help you brainstorm before you jump online and start using expensive resources that may result in bills that distress your client or your law firm. You're actually thinking about the problem, and you're writing down the facts that you think are important and the potential areas of law, which is really a good practice to get into. If you're pulled away from research that you're doing to work on a more pressing matter, when you come back to the matter you were initially researching, using your research log, you can start right where you left off. If you're asked to research a similar issue months or even years later, you'll have that research as a starting point. If you're not finding what you're looking for, your log will document the steps that you took. That way, your supervising attorney, or maybe a reference librarian, might be able to give you some suggestions for researching in ways you haven't tried yet. If you're not finding what you're looking for, your log provides support for the conclusion that there is nothing to find. How do you convince someone that the reason you didn't find what they wanted you to find was that there isn't anything there to find? By showing where and how you looked and what things were found in the search. If your log provides sufficient detail, it can justify billing your client for all the time spent on research. Some clients wonder what takes so long in finding their answers. And if you win your case and try to collect attorney's fees, you are much more likely to be able to recover for your time if you list the specific research activities you performed than if your timesheets just said 8 hours legal research. A good research trail should allow someone else to know exactly the research you did and verify your results. It's not that we don't trust you, but sometimes we really need to be sure. This will also make it useful if someone else is given the task of continuing research you started. And if you're tasked with continuing someone else's research, don't you want them to have left you with a research log that allows you to know what has and has not already been done, with enough information that you don't need to repeat every step? And in this class, it shows me that you know how to use the tools and the skills that we've covered, and gives me the opportunity to tell you if there are things that you could do to improve your research results. But I can only do that if your trail gives me sufficient information on what you did and how you did it. Reading your research log, I should be able to duplicate your research should I so desire. Those are good reasons to keep a good research log. Here are some of the features I think make a good research log. It records your research process in order, including what you looked for at different points of the process. We often don't see what we aren't looking for, so it's nice to have both long-term and short-term research goals. Where you looked. What is the name of the book or index or database or search engine or online platform that you used? How you looked. Did you browse the table of contents or the index? Which terms were you hoping to find? What are the exact words of the searches you ran? Please copy and paste your actual search statements so you don't risk having your log say you searched for one thing when you actually searched for something else. Your log should detail what you found and how much of it you looked through. For your searches that were successful, mention the number of results returned and how you limited your results or how you resorted your results. Also mention how far down the list of results you looked and evaluated their usefulness. And for those searches that were unsuccessful, if they taught you something, make a note of that too, so you don't waste time repeating that mistake. Include complete citations for potentially useful sources and note how you think this information will be useful in resolving your research problem. Or if you find something that you think is not needed for your current assignment, but it might be useful in a future endeavor for this client, include a complete citation for that as well. This comes in really handy, just in case once you know more about what you were researching, you realize you really needed that information after all. Include full citations to all the sources you think you might be using in formulating the actual answer to the problem, whether you intend to actually cite them or not. Include information on how you verified that cases are still good law, statutes and regulations are current. Include the date you did that, so if you need to update this research, you need only close that gap and not reevaluate sources already considered and rejected. Finally, make a note of how you concluded your research was complete and decided you should stop. I usually suggest starting to write before your research is complete, so you can identify any holes in your research without researching everything under the sun. If you start keeping a research log, you might be surprised at how much this actually improves your research process.